Hey there, Red Devil Nation. Welcome back for another Alumni Spotlight. We are honored today to have Sarah Hepp Burke, women's soccer class of 1992, joining us. Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
So before we dive into your journey to Dickinson, just tell us a little bit about where you grew up, where you went to high school, and how you got into playing soccer.
Well, I grew up primarily outside of Philadelphia in Westchester, went to Westchester East High School. But my love for soccer actually started before that. When I was younger, we lived outside of Chicago, and soccer was a huge youth sport there. And I was pretty motivated because the first year we lived there, all the kids were never around on the weekends, and I learned it was because they were playing soccer. So when I was 8, I got on my first team and loved it ever since, played it year round, and thought it was the greatest game ever. Fast forward to Westchester, turns out that my high school didn't have a soccer team.
Wow.
So kind of suffered through that, had to play field hockey and other things to be involved in high school, but continued playing club and ODP and stuff like that as a youth, and made it an absolute goal that soccer was going to be a part of my life in college, and landed at Dickinson. Met Al Masland. He was the head coach back then. He's still quite a figure, I believe, in Carlisle, and as a Dickinson alum, and fell in love with the school and the town and the program, and the rest was history. So
yeah. So how did you meet Coach Madison? How did Dickinson even get on your radar for your college career?
My interests were taking me elsewhere, and I was looking at a lot of different schools up and down the East Coast. And my dad convinced me that I needed to go see Dickinson. And I was dragging my heels, and I was a little perturbed that he was making me go, but it was, just a couple hour drive. So I think it may have been actually the fall of my senior year, maybe the spring of my junior year. We went there and had a look at it, and I just fell in love with what the college was all about. From just it just felt like what you picture, a college should be. I loved the community, the feel of the school, and met Coach Masland, I believe, on one of those trips, and then had some tournaments that summer that he would come and watch us play. And it just turned into, I actually got accepted there. And then I think the recruiting was a little different back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, ended up on the women's team, and absolutely loved the experience from that point forward.
Tell us a little bit about your time here as a student athlete. You mentioned that you loved that experience. And what was that experience like for you personally, being here, being part of the women's soccer program, but also being able to maybe balance that social aspect and academic aspect of Division III?
Being a part of a team. So I think because I didn't have that high school team experience, being a part of a sport or a team as part of your school, your academic experience was amazing. And because Dickinson was a smaller school, you were just connected with students. Students supported the team. They'd come and watch, if they could. But it was just it made me feel good. It was part of my identity. I felt great, being able to play the sport I love while attending college. From a balance standpoint, what I loved about Division III and just the atmosphere and what Dickinson had to offer, obviously your academics are number one, and that is critical. But I also was in a sorority. I was also part of the student athletic training program where, while soccer wasn't in season, I was able to work with Julie and Bob and meet other athletes that played different sports. So you really had that true balance of you were there for school, you were there to learn, but you had your love, your sport. Whether it was sport or whether it was drama or whether it was art, there was something that was for everyone. Social was great.
Mm-hmm.
And there were fraternity houses back then. And, I don't know, it was just it was a great balance.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's so unique to the Division III experience, and in particular Dickinson College, is that opportunity to just immerse yourselves in all these different opportunities across campus and these different organizations and clubs. And you mentioned you were in a sorority. Talk about the relationships that you were able to build with both your sorority sisters, your teammates, and the other athletes because of that opportunity to be an athletic trainer.
Well, one of the things I tell a lot of people about my experience at Dickinson is that you could be a part of so many different things, but by being a part of it, it didn't actually limit who your dearest and closest friends were. And I mean that everything from the sport you play. Someone even asked me the other day, "Oh, you weren't roomed with a soccer player?" Because I was explaining to them the freshman seminar process, and I was like, "No, actually, we weren't. We were roomed with people based on academic or social interests." And some of my dearest friends to this day are from all the different sororities. So just because you were part of a sorority didn't mean that there was this narrow-mindedness of that's who you hung out with and you couldn't hang out with anyone else. So there were wonderful outlets to actually build different types of relationships with people. But all in all, the student body and the people who went there were open, and your friends through different interests.
Mm-hmm.
So some of my dearest friends that I keep in touch with today are from all different aspects of my experiences.
With the academic piece, tell us a little bit about, when you got here, did you know what you wanted to do, and how did you find that passion for what you wanted to do here at Dickinson?
I did know what I wanted to do, and I did a complete 180 my junior year. So ever since I was little, I wanted to be a doctor. And I did everything that I needed to do to make that happen. I came in my freshman year all gung-ho, and I was all prepared that I had to major in a science, some type of science. So I was choosing chemistry. And my advisor at the time was like, just because you want to go to med school doesn't mean you have to major in a science, which was like the best music to my ears. I was like, really? He said, yeah, in fact, you're at a liberal arts college. One of the great things is a well-rounded education. They want well-rounded people, things like that. So I had taken a couple anthropology classes, which was a new, area of study for me coming out of high school. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting. And what a great parallel with the needed courses for med school, prerequisites. So I decided that I would major in anthropology because it was a nice outlet and just a different, broader or different aspect into humanity from a social or biological aspect. So by junior year, I probably was dying of the amount of time spending in lab. And I would always stare outside the window going, oh, I'd love to be out there. If you think about it, this was like right around 1990, 91. And Nike as a brand was pretty front and center with the Just Do It campaign, and their products were, pretty hot at the time. And I was a firm lover of the brand. I wore their shoes, their apparel. And my girlfriends to this day will vouch for me. I said to them, I don't think med school's for me. I want to work for Nike. And I declared it then. So then senior year, I had organized my class schedule, my freshman through junior year, to make sure that I was kind of organized back then. I think I've lost my way as an adult, but I made sure I gotten all of my needed classes, all the core classes, all the things you needed for your major, like everything out of the way. And so my senior year was a lot of electives. So I was taking classes like in business and management and finance and all this stuff. And I absolutely loved it. It was like the greatest thing ever. And so I knew that I had made the right decision and the right shift. And also that year, completely random, because I told you I grew up in Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
My father, out of the blue, was offered a job out in Portland, Oregon.
Wow.
Call it luck, call it divine intervention, I don't know. So I had the opportunity to come out a few times to visit my parents during my senior year in college and set up interviews and connections with Nike. And I moved out here after graduation in June of 92. And for the next couple of years, did everything in my power to get into the brand. And in 94, everything came to fruition.
Why is that liberal arts education, that well-roundedness, so important to people in their professions?
Well, I can only speak from my experience and how I interpret it, but I always find it, I'll just say this before I answer the question. I always find it interesting when I talk to incoming freshmen now, not necessarily at Dickinson, but just anybody, 18 years of age, heading into college. And they're like, I am going to go to business in this aspect of that, or I am going to study this and this. And I found it amazing that people at such a young age knew exactly what they wanted to study to set them up. And so I find it, it was a huge learning experience for me that when you actually go to college, you're learning how to learn, and you're learning so many different, it's such a wonderful experience to learn so many different things, or in different areas that you could dive deep into. And without even knowing it, something could tap an interest or a passion or something that just strikes a chord with you that makes you want to, dive deeper or go further with something. And I know, my dad used to always say to us, like, if you do something that you love, work will never be work. It'll be just continuing or diving deeper into your passion. And so I have been fortunate to have, obviously, athletics were a part of my life, part of my experience at Dickinson, and I've been able to continue my career in that industry.
What were the lessons that you pulled on from Coach Madison and from the athletic training staff and from your professors here that have helped you climb into that industry and start your ascent up the ladder?
I think what you learn from being an athlete or having a passion around anything that is extracurricular is that nothing comes easy. You have to be willing to do the hard work and be willing to pay your dues, and be committed. You can take that from sport. You might have a great season. You may have a great game or not such a great game. You could have a great season or not such a great season, but it doesn't mean all is over. It just means, like, you have to reflect and figure out and maybe course correct, or maybe there's something you have to work on. And I really believe that you can translate that into whether you're in a career or whether you're just striving to start. But if you know where your passions lie, you have to be willing to do what it takes to get there. So to give an example, those 2 years before I got into Nike, I had asked in some of those informational interviews, like, what could I do to make myself, a stronger candidate? And part of it was work retail, get to know the consumer, get to know the product, not just our product, but the competitor's product. What is the, back then there was no internet and digital sales, right? So everything was physical. Mm-hmm. So get to know the landscape of where the product is and how, and so I went and worked retail for 2 years at sporting, stores, so that I could have that hands-on experience, not only with Nike product, but with competitor product, face-to-face conversations with the consumer. What do they like, what they don't like? And then when you do go, when you do finally have those interviews or you do land the job, you actually have the context for what you're doing. And that was super helpful. Is retail fun? No. Was it glamorous to say, I work at a soccer shop down the road after 4 years at Dickinson? No, but it was what I needed to do to get to where I wanted to go.
And now that you're in retail, tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Nike and how the lessons you still learned here at Dickinson have really helped you guys. And like you said, when you first started, it was face-to-face. And now in this ever-evolving world, how has that liberal arts education helped you continue to stay competitive?
Yeah. Yeah, such a great question. I think the one thing we always say, if there's one consistency, it's change, right?
Yep.
And change continues to happen. And I think, when you have, I feel like the relationships at Dickinson, the liberal arts education, I really believe we have a foundation of being open-minded, whether it's open-minded in business or politics or with people, which then translates to consumers or people who are your teammates. And even that is one thing at Nike. Like we consider each other teammates, and so many people are ex-athletes or have grown up with sport in their world that you really think of it as like a high functioning sports team versus like your boss and your coworker. They're really truly teammates. Anyway, where was I going with that? I just think when you have a broader, more well-rounded education or open like thought process, you're more nimble, and being nimble is so important. And you can relate that into like every day, or you can look at that on a broader scope of the changing consumer landscape or political, the world. I mean, you can go as broad or deep as you want with that, but I do think it just sets that foundation of kind of taking the time to listen,
right,
and respecting where other people are coming from, and incorporating that into maybe your next step or how you want to act.
You were given a great accolade here at Dickinson. You are in the Hall of Fame. What was that moment like for you to get that call, but now to know that you are forever immortalized as a Red Devil here at Dickinson?
Oh, it's actually super fun. And when I've come back for reunions, my friends and I will always go take a walk into the Klein Center, one, to see the amazing updates that have happened to that great place, but two, just to do a little walk through memory lane and have a chuckle, that my face is in there, which is fun. But I will tell you, in all seriousness, to receive that award, I poured my heart and soul into that sport, and soccer was just such a huge part of who I was. And it was such a part of my identity, and having that opportunity to play soccer in college, like I said, I didn't in high school. So it was kind of a missing link to who I was. And then receiving that honor just was the most amazing, cherry on top of a wonderful cake. And it was truly an honor. So yeah, it's a proud moment for me. So yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is. Why are you proud to be an alum from Dickinson College?
Why am I proud to be an alum? I think there's so many reasons of why I'm proud to be an alumni. I think first and foremost, if I just look at the people who go there, they're amazing people. They have such a broad base of where they're from, who they are, what their interests are, and kind of the things that they've tackled as adults in society. And it's just super amazing to connect back with everybody and see the paths that they've taken and the things that they've accomplished. So number one, I mean, the college is made up of the people that go there, and the people are pretty amazing, which then lends itself to just the foundations of the college, what it stands for. And I think in today's world, I am super impressed with the environmental studies and practices that the school has in place. Just key critical topics that today's student, all of us, need to be aware of. But these are the people who are going to figure this, help lead change in the future. And it's really exciting to see that there's such a focus on that coming out of Dickinson.
What gave you as an individual pride to wear the red and to represent Dickinson on the field?
It's Division III, so you're there because you want to be there, right? Like,
right.
You're not there because your education depends on you playing the sport. You're there because your heart's in it, your soul's in it, and you're playing for your team. And I think when you have people together, because of that, it's humbling and amazing all at the same time.
When Coach Zingman and the team finally return to the field, when we are allowed to play soccer again, what is your prediction for the women's soccer program?
Oh my God, what an amazing season last year. Those ladies, I think they need to repeat heading into the Sweet 16 again. They went two rounds into there.
Yep, they lost in the third round.
Yep. Okay. So
to
Final
none
Four.
other than Centennial Conference opponent Johns Hopkins.
All right. Final Four.
Final Four?
Yep.
Love it. Well,
yep.
Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and to share your story with us and with the Dickinson community.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to come and chat.
You are welcome. We look forward to sharing the story, like I said, and we really look forward to having you back up on campus soon when we're out playing soccer again down at Dickinson Park.
I would love to. Sounds great.
Well, take care, stay safe, and we will see you soon.
Thanks, Justin. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Bye.